Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brian from BG 90 Day. So, a little bit different type of workout today. I actually had a request from one of the daughters for a workout that she can do before school. So, what we're looking for is something that's going to allow them to not use a ton of equipment and not do anything that, like, if they're doing it by themselves, where they would get hurt. Okay. So, we're not trying to see like we're not going to be using barbells. I don't even want them using dumbbells or kettlebells in case they do this on their own. Um, we will have a little bit of equipment, but it's nothing that's going to break, nothing that they're likely to get hurt on. Okay, so and then also what we can set up at your place, I can give you some stuff that like might work. Okay, so like in lieu of a pull-up bar, maybe you have one of those like bars that we can throw up in the door frame. Okay, or just something that they can grab onto around the house. Okay, um, let's just kind of get started. So we're going to start out with like some upper body stuff, then we'll do some lower body stuff that's going to need a little bit of equipment, and then just some real basic movements for the core. So we're going to be like working on things where we're doing some strength, but we're also going to be like getting in and out of positions, which kids are normally pretty good at. Okay. The other thing to be aware of is we're not going to be doing a ton of consecutive reps because something having been a former teacher and just have a little bit of experience training kids, watching kind of like how my kids move and when they try to work out, kind of what they kind of get involved with, or some things you want to be aware of, is the technique can go really quickly. Okay, so we don't want to have them do 10 push ups where two or three of them are good and seven are bad. Let's just do one and then let's change positions and repeat it. So that's a little bit about like what we're going to be getting into today. Okay, so we're going to start out. Let's start out with some upper body stuff. All right, so we'll be using the pull-up bar behind us. Okay, now I can do them up here. Okay, because I'm tall enough to reach either one of these bars. My kids are not tall enough, so I would probably have them use something like this here. Now, like we said, we don't have this type of setup. What's pretty easy to find is those bars that kind of go in the door frame, and they're only going to do one of them. So we're not going to be doing like hipping CrossFit style push-ups where you got to worry about them hurting themselves or destroying anything. Okay, so we would start out, we would tell them, get onto the bar that they can grab. And then from there, if they can, the overhand grip's going to be a little bit harder. Okay. If they need to jump into it a little bit, that's okay. We're trying to get one good pull up. All right. So we do one good pull up and we come back down. Okay. So we do that part. If you have them struggle with it, they're probably just gonna kind of do. They're not gonna do very good ones. All right, and that's what we're trying to avoid as best we can. All right, so now what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna inchworm out. Okay, so if I'm back here, I'm gonna inchworm out. I'm gonna get into a push-up position. I'm gonna go one good push-up, glute squeeze, glute squeeze. And now from here, I'm going to reverse inchworm. Okay? Most kids, I feel like, could probably do that. All right? We're going to run that a few times. All right? So I'm going to come out again. I'm going to go one good push up. My body's nice and tight. Okay? I'm going to glute squeeze. Glute squeeze. Okay? My leg is long. I just picked that heel up. Back to where I started. All right? So we're going to keep running that. Okay. Oh, I keep forgetting that glute squeeze. Okay, so we're trying to keep the leg long and try to avoid bending your knee. Push up, glute, glute. Okay, and then let me give you one from this angle here. Okay, so I'll inchworm out. I'm going to do my push up. Okay, glute, glute, and get out of that position. Okay, so now, what are some issues with this typically? Body position, where a lot of times kids, they make like that upside down V where their tailbone's really high. That's gonna be tough for them to kind of self-correct. The best way to get better at that, simply practice. Okay, however, what's the next most common mistake or something that they might have to work on is just not bending the elbows enough. Okay, I used to be a PE teacher, so I used to get kids tell me how they can do 1,000 push-ups, and you watch them, and it's like, hey, I did 50. Okay, did you? How can we maybe help them with that? Normally a tactile cue, especially for boys, can be really good. So just anything that's maybe just a few inches. So like normally what I'll use, even for adults when they're trying to get push-ups going, I train a lot of women, push-ups tend to be harder for women. Simple yoga box, okay? You can get these for like, $6, pretty much like anywhere. So what that would look like, so throw that there. Now I'm just gonna get some part of my torso to touch down onto that box. So I inchworm out, my hands are maybe just past and outside the box. I'm gonna push, touch, back up, I would hit my glute squeezes, and then I reverse inchworm out of that, okay? So that can be something that might help them. Okay, now after I get my 5, what would I do? I would probably go right back to my vertical pull. Okay, so whatever bar you got to use. Okay, now if the overhand grip is too hard, I was actually training a high school kid the other day. He just started working out, and this overhand, like if I put him in a dead hang here, he can only get to maybe about there. Okay, so what's something we can do so that we can complete the entire rep is mess around with your grip a little bit. Depending on what equipment you have, this neutral grip here is normally a good way to do it. Now, I don't have that here, so what I would say then is supinated. So your palms are gonna face inward. That's gonna put it a little bit more in their arms. They know how to use these muscles a lot better typically than these. All right, so if that's an issue, that's fine. We're still pulling. Okay, so I change my grip, and if I need to jump into it, I can. If I can dead hang and pull, that's really good. Not many kids can do that one. Okay, so I would do my vertical pull, and then I would go right back into my inchworm. Okay, I inchworm out, I do my push-up, glute squeeze, inchworm back out. I'm trying to get like 5 of those. Okay, so to start out, we probably want to try to run that whole sequence at least 3 times. Okay, so that you're getting a few good, solid, very challenging pulls. Okay, and then we're just working on push-up technique where we're not doing 1,000, we're doing almost like 1 at a time, and then getting in and out of the position, and we just add that glute squeezing. That's typically going to force the abs to work, and then that's going to kind of lead into our next one. We want to get a little bit more lower body dominant here. Okay, so here would be like the second part. Okay, any type of like low seat, okay, would work. Okay, so like this is pretty low for me. Okay, like if you have access to one of these are not super expensive, or even just like as long as it's somewhat stable, like a little chair, anything could work here. Okay, what we're going to try to have them do is they would probably be a little bit higher than me, but this might look easy. It's not that easy. You're going to try to get out of the seat using only 1 foot. Okay? And normally what will happen is if you're watching them do this, or maybe helping them with it the first time, is they will say, that's easy. And then you say, good, that's what you want. You want it to be easy. Because if it's not easy, the technique's going to be bad. Okay? So the idea is good technique. Okay? So I'd say you probably look for like 4 to 5 of these on each side. Okay? And then the good thing about this is you might see one leg is normally stronger than the other. Okay, we're just gonna pick one leg up, and it's like, okay, maybe you have a maybe daughter that's really tall. This is gonna be hard for her potentially. How can we make it easier? Is, well, for one, this is pretty low. If you have access to one of these, that's what's good about these. You can add more risers. You can make it higher. You can make it lower. Okay, so you can change the height there. Another trick is you can have them maybe take their thumbs and just kind of put those on the side here, and you give yourself a little push to try to get out of the hole. Okay, so they can kind of spot themselves that way. If you're in a gym, you can get like TRXs and hook things up. Okay, for kids, they'll be fine. They probably don't need that. If you're working with like someone that was like, if you're having like your grandma do this, then yeah, you want to make sure she's stable. We don't want anyone breaking a wrist. Okay, so this would be pretty quad dominant, but we're also getting the glutes into it. What else can we do now? Maybe to go after that post chain a little bit. Here's a good one. These things are pretty safe. Smash balls. Okay, they're made to be essentially dropped on the ground, smashed on the ground. They're not going to break. They're not going to hurt anything. As long as you have a good floor. So like if the kids are like down in the basement or something, we're all good with it. What do we want to teach kids to do is pick this thing up, drop it. So what we're going to do is to get their post chain into it, we're going to have them throw it over their shoulder, and we're going to have them pick it up, put it down at different heights. So we can use the chair again. All right, so first thing we'll do is we'll have them pick the thing up, and we'll say, okay, throw it over your one shoulder. Okay, so we do that. Now we're going to pick it up again, put it on the chair, pick it up off the chair, throw it over the other shoulder. Okay, so we're just having them learn, and this can be a good way to teach them how to hinge their hips. Okay, instead of like putting a PVC pipe on their back and doing bands and like all this stuff. If they have a trainer that's like a live training session, that would be what that's for. Here, pick the ball up, throw it over your shoulder. Good, cool. Pick it up again. Okay, put it down, throw it over your other shoulder. Okay, I can do this. Pick it up, throw it over your shoulder. Pick it up again. Okay, they're learning how to move. Okay, they're using their muscles. Okay, so I would say you probably want to go like an even number so they get used to throwing it over each shoulder, but you just kind of have them do that 4 times. All right, so that's going to get more back here. They're using their upper body to kind of assist the lower body. And now we come back to our seat. And we're just going to try to stand up off one leg. Okay, this will probably be pretty easy for most kids. Most kids, they don't weigh enough for that to be super challenging. They probably, hopefully, don't have any injuries or anything like that, like a full-grown adult would have. Okay, so they'll get their 3 or 4 or 5 off each leg. Okay, we talked about how we can adjust that, and then they can come back to their ball. Okay, now and that's the good thing about the ball. You can start with just like maybe if you have like an 8-year-old, maybe you start with like an 8-pound ball. Okay, this one a little bit heavier. This is like 15. Okay, I have another one that's 20. Okay, if you're dealing with like a high school kid, you might need them to maybe get like a 40-pound ball and then run that several times. They're probably more adept at moving their body. Okay, so I would try to run that little sequence, a knee dominant movement that's just challenging enough. Okay, and then more of like a hip dominant movement where we're working on picking something up off the ground and then let's throw it over our shoulder. Okay, real simple. I would say very low chance of injury as long as the ball's not, 1,000 pounds. Okay, so there we go. We're working the lower body a little bit. Okay. All right, so now what else can we do? Let's try to get the core into it a little bit. So pretty simple. We can go back to that inchworm, and what we're going to do is we're going to step over and reach. So you would be in like a modified, like high side plank position. Okay, now the key to this one, I'll maybe go half on, half off here. I'll tilt the camera down just a bit. Okay. All right, so we can go back to that inchworm now. Now the key here is to move the feet first. So I don't need to do push-ups. I already did those. I'm going to move my feet. So I'm stepping my right foot over my left here, and I'm going to reach back to neutral. Go to the other side. Go to the other side. I move my feet, then I move my hand. Okay, now what happens is sometimes kids go too fast. They get hyped up pretty easily. They move their hand first, and then the foot, and then they fall. All right, so we don't want to practice falling. Let's move our feet, then the hand. Move your feet, then your hand, okay? And if we can get them to pause up here, that's the key. So not too fast. Okay, boys especially, they like to go fast. So we got to slow them down a little bit so that those muscles in here, those obliques, that shoulder can actually maybe start to feel it a little bit. Okay. All right, so just some basic step overs into that like side plank position. That can be really good for like shoulder stability, core stability, and really that's the name of the game. Kids, they can like get into this position really well. Most of them, they're like dummy. The problem is some of them, especially when they're little, they have like the stability of like a wet pool noodle. Okay, so we got to teach them how to stiffen up their muscles and how to produce just a little bit of force. And this is something, once they get a little practice with it, they most likely, if they're, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th grade, they'll be able to do it on their own, no problem, okay? And they'll be able to improve pretty quickly. The best way to progress then, I would say, is just by adding some volume, okay? So if you have any questions about that, make sure you hit me up in the group, in those comments. Let me know maybe where your son or daughter's at and how we can progress it for them for there. But that's pretty much it for today. I hope you found this beneficial. I will stop this one here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.